Welcome, welcome, my friends, to another edition of More Bad News, brought to you, as always, by Camel's Cigarettes. Take the Camel's Challenge, smoke Camels for 30 days, and see for yourself what a difference Camels can make in your life. Well, my friends, this is a special edition of More Bad News called Purim, Amalek, and the Call to Genocide. Yesterday was Shabbos Zachor, the Sabbath of Remembrance, and tomorrow is the Fast of Esther, and tomorrow night is the Purim holiday. This is a holiday in which men dress as women. My rabbi was advertising he's looking for a tutu to wear tomorrow night. And for those of you who live in states that have just had passed anti-drag laws, I just want you to know that I think it is a matter of religious freedom, that what you wear is an expression of your spirit, of your soul. And you're going to have a bunch of Jews in synagogue. You can go and bust and go and arrest them, drag away the rabbis, because they'll be wearing drag on tomorrow night on Purim. And from there you can go to the Catholic Church and drag them away as well, because they're always wearing drag on Sunday, you know. So it's it's a crazy world. Anyway, and this is a crazy holiday for a crazy world. So but let's get straight on to the last week's bad news. I have an article that arrived from the New Yorker last week by Elizabeth Colbert, one of my favorite authors, and it's on phosphorus. You know, the stuff that the farmers use, and they to grow crops. We eat because we have this fertilizer. Fertilizer used all over the world, and you need phosphorus for it. And originally, it came from guano, from bird droppings in the Caribbean, and then from the Sahara, and it has resulted in enormous ecological problems, including in the Gulf of Mexico, just a huge dead zone. The phosphorus comes down the Mississippi River, runs out into the Gulf of Mexico, causes these huge algae blooms, which are toxic. They'll make you vomit, and they'll kill you eventually. When the toxic bloom dies, then it sucks out all the oxygen and it becomes a dead zone. And what you have in the Gulf of Mexico is this huge area of the ocean which is completely dead. There's nothing can live there. So she concludes this article. By the way, it's based on she's reviewing actually a new book by Dan Egan, Egan, who is our own boy. He's an incredible journalist who has been writing all his life about the Great Lakes, and this comes out of that, because the Great Lakes, we have this huge problem of pollution, phosphorus, invasive species. I mean, you name it, and we have it now in this magnificent treasure of fresh water. So she concludes the article like this: when Humboldt lugged his sack of bird shit to Europe, it seemed safe to say that he had no idea what lay ahead. The wrecking of the Guano Islands, the Bau conveyor belt, the war in Western Sahara, aquatic dead zones, and potentially phosphogeddon. This is the hazards of innovation. Short-term solutions turn out to have long-term costs. But by the time these costs have become apparent, it's too late to reverse course. In this sense, the world's phosphorus problem resembles its carbon dioxide problem, its plastics problem, its groundwater use problem, its soil erosion problem, and its nitrogen problem. The path humanity is on may well lead to ruin. As of yet, no one has found a workable way back. So, as I say, tomorrow is Purim, and I wanted to say a few words about this holiday. First, is based on the Book of Esther, and the Book of Esther is not history. It is taken as history by Orthodox Jews, and in the Talmud. I'm going through there's a volume of the Talmud called Megillah, which is all about the Purim and the Megillah, and it's clear that they take this as absolute historical fact. which is absurd. And the Robert Alter, the leading authority, on the Torah, he translated it all, and magnificent linguist. It's very clear that this has no relationship to anything that is real. There are all kinds of contradictions in it. He speculates that the story was written that there was a holiday that was like the Mardi Gras in New Orleans. Around this time of year, there was this holiday, and it was not connected to a biblical story. It wasn't connected to Passover, Sukkot, and Shavuos. Those were holidays that everybody had, and we layered on them these biblical stories. This one didn't have a biblical story. So, but it was a great holiday, and people loved it. And this play was written for this holiday. And so certainly written the Persian loanwords and everything. It just was probably written in the 4th or 5th century BCE. So it's a very old story. There's no mention of the name of God in it. It's a completely secular story. It doesn't take place in Israel. The first thing Robert Alter comments is that it is extraordinary that this book found its way into the canon. There are a number of these works, and I think it's just that they're good literature. These were great, great stories, and I think that there's power of tradition. People really, really liked these stories, and so they took hold, and before you know it, it was considered sacred and had to be true. But the story has a disturbing aspect to it. The Haman, you think about this fantasy. And it is a fantasy, but it's a fantasy that goes back 2,000 years. It's 2,500 years, right? 2,500 years ago, somebody had a dream or fantasy that there was a guy whose name began with an H who wanted to kill all the Jews and was nearly successful. What kind of story is that? And the question then is, what was his motivation? What was Haman's motivation for wanting to kill all the Jews? Well, the story says that Mordechai wouldn't bow to him, but then you have the questions: why wouldn't Mordechai bow to him? I mean, Haman is not an idol; he's a person, and it's perfectly acceptable to bow. You can shake hands with somebody. You can bow as a respect. You can bow before a king. You are not forbidden to bow as a sign of respect. That's not idol worship. So Haman, he was identified as an Agagite. He was a descendant of King Agag. King Agag was the king of the Amalekites. And this past Sabbath was the Shabbat Zachor, where we remember. I want you to know here. So this is a traditional Jewish siddur. And at the end of the morning service, there's a list of 6 things that we are commanded to remember. And among the 6 things is the story of Amalek. Let me see if I can find this quickly. Here it is. So, Amalek, remember what Amalek did to you, but this comes from Devarim, 28, Deuteronomy 28, and he says, and so Amalek attacked you. Remember what he did. He killed the weak and the innocent, from the rear, and when God settles you in the land, you are commanded, Timche et Zecher Amalek, blot out, Timche et Zecher Amalek, blot out the name of Amalek, Mitachas HaShamayim, from under the heavens, Lo Tishkach, don't forget. So we're commanded to blot out the memory of Amalek, which is a kind of hard command to follow. You have to remember to blot out the memory. But what it really meant was that as a Hasidic rabbi once told me, you shouldn't be able to point to a donkey and say that was an Amalekite donkey. You know, you want to kill all the donkeys. And what I was told by this what was that everything that Amalek had was evil. His goldfish were evil. Everything had to be destroyed because it was all evil. So what you have here is a call to genocide, and then yesterday we read from the book of Samuel, and Samuel sends out King Saul. Samuel calls Saul, says, "I made you king, and now I want you to obey God and go out and smite the Amalekites." And kill them without mercy, from infant to suckling, men, women. It's very explicit. Saul goes out, and this is the and he has an army, and he wipes out the Amalekites. He slaughters infants and sucklings all over the place, and he is on his way back now. And he's bringing some sheep and goats that he has taken as booty. They're going to sacrifice in a big ceremony, and he's also got the King Agag. And Samuel meets him on the road back, and Saul is very proud of himself. He throws his arms out and he says, "Blessed is the Lord. I have fulfilled the command of the Lord." And Samuel looks at him and says, "Then what is this bleating of sheep in my ears?" And Saul says, "Oh, well, I mean, we brought a few of the sheep, and Samuel says to Saul, "What do you think God wants from you? Your obedience or the fat of lambs? You were sent to do a job. And what about Agag?" Oh, well, yes, Agag is over here." And so Samuel says, "Bring me Agag." And Samuel takes a machete, and he cuts Agag to pieces, is what right there, he just chops him into pieces. And then he says to Saul, that God is going to replace you with someone better than you, because you didn't have what it takes to carry out God's command to commit genocide against the Amalekites, and not to spare even the sheep, even the goldfish. Nothing, everything has to be destroyed. If it breathes, kill it. This is a very disturbing story, and seen the results of it last week in a rampaging mob of Kahanists in Israel, killing and destroying innocent people. They're Kahanists. These people are the descendants of Meir Kahana, who I met, was an American Jew who went to Israel and started this movement. Basically, their attitude is the only good Arab is a dead Arab, or they have to either get out or be eliminated, because they are poison, and I mean, you want to even kill their donkeys, you uproot their olive trees, and there's no deterring these people. They will carry on, just as when you're talking about Nazis, when you're talking about people who are passionately motivated by hatred, there's no deterrence. We have them here in the United States, we have them in Israel, and to some extent, what you're seeing is the result of the collapse of our civilization. It isn't as if there's a problem there and there's a problem here. There's a problem in China, there's a problem in Russia, there's a problem in Ukraine, there's a problem in England, Germany, France, Brazil. I mean, everywhere you go, and because this is a global crisis that we're facing, and it's going to be extremely dark. There's no escape from this. We're heading for a place where there is no salvation. And that's something that's really very, very hard for people to adjust themselves to. All I can tell you is the best advice for tomorrow is get yourself to a synagogue, wear a dress if you're a man, and get drunk. And then you'll wake up on Tuesday morning, and you'll read the Megillah one more time. And, you know, the whole idea is that this is a holiday. This is a festive holiday. This is like Mardi Gras. And we are commanded to be happy. So for God's sakes, be happy. And I will see you next week. Remember, take the Camels Challenge. Between now and next week, I want to see you people starting on the Camels Challenge. All right. See you next week. Have a good week. Bye.